ladies and gentlemen. We're now going to go into the next panel conversation about women's participation in the oil and gas sector. Now, to start us off, I'd like to welcome to stage Natasha Massano, board member at ANPG Angola, for a keynote address on the topic.
Excellency Minister of Natural Resources, Minister of Oil and Gas, Minister of members of the board of directors and head of departments of companies and service providers, dear guests, my ladies and gentlemen, once again, good afternoon. Before all, I'd like to thank the organization for the invitation that was addressed to me so that I can be the facilitator of this panel that will discuss on the diversity, inclusion, and mentorship on the oil and gas petrol. Gender equality is still a challenge for this sector, and we still see that the way forward for women on equity on the oil industry is still a long path. It's not a particular scenario in Angola, but data, we can, all the producer countries worldwide, only 1/3 of the laborers are women, and 90% of them are on the technical and hard work, and on the leadership they are only 10%. On this content of this challenge content, that at the end of 2022, by the sponsorship and the patronage of the Ministry of Natural Resources, and then we created the Mohatu Energy Angola with the aim to promote career opportunities and leadership development and an inclusive way for women on our industry. We proposed to engage and achieve these goals through promoting equity, equality on work sites and work environment, and promote events for experience sharing, developing excellency centers for women, and the engagement and communication for an inclusion culture on the oil and gas sector. Since then, many activities have been done and events have been done, mostly on mentorship, on the female mentorship that was launched from the beginning of this year, and so it's a way for any professional enhancement. This mentorship program is still on a pilot stage. It's part of 15 entities in which we have the Ministry of Natural Resources and the service providers, agencies and entities, and 118. We have 118 participants, in which 74 are mentored and 44 are the mentors. And they are made up by men and women, and with expertise on the sector leadership. And so the mentorship that we've been conducting is on for capacity building and skills and auto-confidence and networking and balance between the work and lifestyle and representativeness. So the mentorship program have been playing an important role on the advancement, enhancement and empowerment on women for several areas, professional areas, because they provide support, orientation and personal development opportunity, enabling women to overcome barriers and challenges, and they may achieve their full potential. And we believe that our path is still long, and for us to achieve such objective with a better equity, for more women to be part and active on the leadership of the sector. And just a few times ago, they said being a woman on that sector is not easy at all. We are resilient, we are persistent, we are constant, and we are committed to this objective in order to be part of the sustainable development of that industry on women participation. Once again, I want to thank the opportunity on the behalf of the Muhatu Network to make the introduction of this panel. Just as I said, it will discuss on the promoting the integrity and mentorship on the oil and gas sector. So I also grabbed this opportunity to invite the panelists that were invited to share the experience and the initiatives on the organization for the organization they work for, to promote mostly the equity for women. And thank you very much on that sector as well.
This next panel will be presented by myself, and I'd need your help in welcoming the panelists to join me on stage. Please give a warm round of applause to Kadia Epalanga, board member at Sonangol, Angola, as she comes to stage. Annabella Marcos, deputy general manager at Sonils, Angola. Katrina Fisher, production manager, ExxonMobil, Angola. Natasha Cardoso, business development manager, Oceaneering, based in Angola. Rosano dos Santos, a legal compliance manager, Equinor, based in Angola. Judith Brito Diaz, entrepreneur, based in Angola. And Yvonne Simeo Cardosa, Human Resources Manager at Chevron, Angola. It is critical to ensure that women's participation accelerates and improves in the oil and gas sector. Right now, we're seeing it as a central challenge in Angola, in Africa, and globally, where we are underrepresented. The statistics are as such that women's participation currently in the oil and gas sector is at 20%. That is according to a McKinsey report. Now that figure declines by 31% as we go up the management levels. So in opening up this conversation, I want to get your perspective in terms of the lay of the land. Where is it blocking? And I'd like to start with you, ma'am. Where is it blocking? What's happening? Why are we not seeing the amount of women that we should be seeing?
Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Yvonne, and I'm the Asia manager for Chevron. I believe that it all starts from the ground. We all get educated to ensure that we have success in our careers. But when it comes to the oil industry, I believe that there's more that we need to be doing to ensure that we are motivating our women to continue learning STEM type of, to go to STEM profession. There is still a lot of opportunity when it comes to engineering degrees, participation, when it comes to, for example, women deciding to go to work on a space like a platform. Culturally, there is still some blockage, but I believe that we're still going to the right direction. We have a number of new hires that we have in our organization. We have promoted a number of women in our organization that are promoting and supporting the growth in our leadership. We have today a program that we call Global Women Leader, where we have 20+ women from different backgrounds, from different countries coming together and talk about what are the main pitfalls, working together to understand what challenges they have, especially in the middle level, and that has been supporting their growth within the organization, as well as bringing other women into the leadership roles.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And I want to get to more examples of what is working, what are companies doing, what are countries doing that is actually moving the needle in terms of getting more women involved. But I'd like to ask this same question to you, Ma'am Katja. In terms of what is blocking the industry, what do you see as an obstacle?
Thank you. I have problems to say that something is working. For me, nothing is working. Sorry about that. I know that we have a lot of support from the men, but not enough. And if it's not enough, for me, it's nothing. It's zero. I agree that we are not where we came in 20, 50, 100 years ago. We move up, but we need to move more, because to talk about sustainability, we need to have a good model of that governance, social and environmental. And for that, diversity, inclusion will be the key, is the key. And we don't talk just to the companies like Sonangol, that is, since the beginning, 47 years ago, have women. We start with 1, 2, 3. On the first year, we have had just 6 women. 47 years ago, now we have 3,000. Yes, we move. That is enough. No. We need to change. We need mindset change for men, for women, for the society, for everybody. I think our goals today should not, yes, we are improving. We have men supporting us. We have launching for Sonangol this year, Ukembu, after Murato strategy. Sonangol has their own, just to talk about ladies, workers, and to discuss about diversity in the company. After 47 years, that's good. But it's not enough. What we need to do is to implement all the strategy, all the initiatives to see not only 3,000, about 80,000, that is the total global numbers workers in Sonangol, but to have more equity on that and to have a real sustainability environment in our companies.
Thank you. Annabella, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Yeah, definitely I agree with all the points, and I will not be repetitive. Just to mention that the idea is, yes, we have a lot of support from our management teams, from government as well, but we need to move from this idea of nice to do, all this conversation about gender, to we must do, and really trying to enforce laws. We need to understand that this is law, this is part of our constitution. So gender equality is something that we need to comply. Ricardo Van Dest just mentioned about the ESG agenda and how it's part of the leadership management agenda, the reports, all the plans around that. So we also need to move the idea of something on the corner of some HR people doing something to the leadership agenda and work on concrete actions. As O'Neill's, we are not also proud about our numbers. We are 7% women in 2020. We are moving slowly, but we're moving. But we also need to understand that it's not only about numbers. It's about how we do, and we need to understand what is stopping the women to be there. We did a study, we did an assessment on that, and we realized that we have a lot to do. Since changing toilets in the company, from changing documents, to make sure that we are really compliant with what we're supposed to do in terms of gender. Yeah.
And I have to commend the fact that you're being open and transparent as a company on your numbers. Because that's another part of female participation, is actually knowing what the figures are. Where are the bottlenecks, You can have a very impressive number, but actually see that the concentration of the opportunities are in the lower levels of job creation. So I have to commend that, and my next question will go to you, Katrina. From your perspective, I mean, you've been in the industry for quite a while, worked your way up, you've seen quite a bit. How has the experience been for you, and where do you see the bottlenecks?
Yeah, I think what we need to do to really empower women to have the multiplier effect that they can have on an organization is empower them at all stages of their careers. So at ExxonMobil, we're committed to attracting and retaining women, providing the tools to develop them to their full potential, and supporting seeing them in all levels of the organization. So as you mentioned, here in Angola, Melissa's our country manager, I'm our production manager, and that's unique for ExxonMobil. We're the only business unit in the ExxonMobil portfolio that has 2 female leaders, at the top of the organization. And I think, what's, supported Melissa and I to achieve these kind of goals is support through various stages of life. So, I started as an intern. I was able to see at an early age, to have that exposure, to understand that opportunity exists, to have that encouragement. My dad told me from an early age there was no job I couldn't do, and I think there's still a lot of gender bias or perception on certain roles, within our company. And then, strong talent development programs, both within your company, and Natasha mentioned earlier about the Muhatu Energy Mentoring Program, programs that bridge across companies, bridge across industries, and really provide that mentorship to help women grow. And then lastly, I'll say as well, while not every woman, chooses to have a child, I'll say about 14 and a half years ago, I thought I was ruining my career, when I was pregnant with my oldest son, and that puts women in a lot of tension. And I had a really great leader who said to me, I want you to take, the amount of time you're gonna take off or how you think you're gonna be restricted and divide it by 35 years. And I'm like, wow, that's only 2 or 3%. So she's like, forget about it. Like, take the time you need to build your family, to build the support network that you need, right? And then you'll be successful in the long term. And so for me, being able to have that confidence from my family at an early age, from leaders and mentors, like Melissa that I have in my own company, I've been blessed to be able to have that foundation. And so I can be in a position, to succeed. And now it's so important for me to pay it forward and to be a mentor and to blaze that trail for others and bring more behind me to improve those numbers. Because again, although we've got us at the top, we do absolutely need to continue to improve and add more women, to our workforce and absolutely to our leadership team.
Thank you. And you touch upon something important that I want to come back to, the importance of mentorship, the importance of support within the organization, and also role model, because you're essentially saying that people are seeing 2 women at the top, and this is driving more women to integrate into the workforce. So I want to come back to that, but before, I'd like to get your perspective, Natasha, in terms of what's blocking.
Okay, I'm Hosanna from
Oh, apologies.
no worries. Well, I think that this journey has to start and then is a continuous improvement. It's something that, for instance, for our company, Equinor, it started some years ago when we changed our name, corporative name, from Statoil to Equinor. And Equinor, this name, in the very beginning, it comes from equality, equilibrium, and it is the basis for that journey in terms of diversity and inclusion. And to me in particular, the tone comes from the top. So everyone needs to be, feel seen, that they are embraced. And I can give my personal example today. I was not supposed to be here today, but our country manager who got sick. And I think it's a way of empowering women. And so I'm here in this panel, and I'm very glad to be here with all of you and being able to share our experience. And I guess in terms of what is not working so well, maybe some gender issues that we have, the stereotypes, some of the recruitment bias that exists, some of in terms of payments that unfortunately may not be equal for women and men. That's a reality in many organizations. Also to be given opportunities and the mentorship programs as well. Muhatu Energy is just a great example of that. Equinor in particular, we collaborate with that and we support, and it's a way of creating networks as well that all of us can raise our voices, can give our examples, can share that, yeah, we are here And we are also, some of us, mothers, and we have a lot to do, not only within our duties with our offices, but our own duties as well. So, but it's important that the organizations set it from the top, because it sets the example for everybody.
Thank you, Rosanna, and it's a pleasure having you with us today. Now, you mentioned the word bias. It's come up in this conversation twice already, gender bias and recruitment bias. Now, in coming to you, Natasha, I would like to ask, which do you think is causing the most problem? Because on the one hand, you have a gender bias in terms of the perspective of women going into this industry, that it's an industry for men, and you also have the bias of recruitment, oh, she's a woman, she shouldn't be in this industry. Which one of these is hurting the most?
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My personal point of view, both are hurting us as women, and it is something that needs to be addressed. In our company, we have, and I believe all oil companies and contractors, we have programs, we have training to overcome conscious and unconscious bias, and we do tailor our hiring strategies to personnel in general, but we do not tailor it for women. We don't have enough women in strong positions, enough leading women that can show our young women that they can do it as well. That is changing. An example from Melissa, an example from every panelist that is here, as well as Natasha and all the other women that are in this conference. But it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed to cause discomfort, right? Because unless we overcome the initial discomfort, unless we understand that, yes, we are not doing enough, what else can we do? Why do we still have an issue getting women? All those questions need to be addressed. And once we overcome that, then focus on solutions. So yes, that unconscious or conscious bias exists. What are we actively as companies doing to overcome it? Yes, we do training. Do we talk on a daily basis? Do we address, do we find policies to make sure that that is not a day-to-day work, that doesn't happen on a daily basis? So overcome, find solutions, and then act, and once again continue that cycle until it's not such a big issue. Because let's be honest, we have moved a lot as an industry, and having women now in leadership positions is something that we wouldn't see 20, 30, 40 years ago. But we can do more. So at Oceaneering, we do have the training, we do have the Oceaneering Women's Network, and we also have a diversity, inclusion, and equity board where we discuss those things. So let's continue to do those things and make sure that once we move past it, we do not get accommodated on it. It's enough now. We have 20 women in the board, or 20%, and it's enough. It's not enough. It will be enough once we are equally represented in every levels of the organization.
Strong statement there, and I'm actually going to use your statement of we can do more to move on to you, Judith. So you're an entrepreneur. In the spirit of understanding what we can do to do more, I'd like to give you the opportunity to give us your perspective. How can we do more? And also perhaps you can hone in on what you've seen as some of the blocking. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm speaking Portuguese to better express my feelings. After 3 decades in oil and gas and this position as entrepreneur, eu pus flashback.
It flashes back 30 years ago. This flashes back 30 years ago when there were no women in leadership positions, only in administrative positions. And today we are openly discussing this issue. When I look back, and forward, I think that the future will be better. We have to definitely have more support from men, and also we need to support one another as women. The challenge is greater when we come from oil and gas. The support that the operators give to diversification and inclusion. Outside, the challenge is even greater due to the lack of support. So we have to continue to support one another. Women should be more flexible, and men should support us more. And this should start from home. This inclusion and diversification should start from home, institutions, and finally at organizations, so that we can have what is expected. I wouldn't say to have more men than women in the market, but to bring an equilibrium and to use our capacities in a better way. We talk about of natural resources, gas resources that we have, that we are blessed with, but we need to explore all potential of human capital that we have in this sector and beyond, and especially all the capacities of women, which are a lot. We are multitask. In this case, we're talking about mothers, daughters, some are grandmothers. So we need to explore this potential of the women resources, especially for leadership.
I love your point about exploring resources, and that's where I want to draw my attention to you, Yvonne. As a human, someone within the human resources space, I'm going to use terms that you're all familiar with, upstream, downstream. Could the issue be in terms of education that we are not getting enough young girls within the STEM education, and what can be done from that perspective? And collaboration, partnerships, what have you seen that works?
Definitely we have an opportunity to do a lot more. We have slowly almost lost the ground, especially because it's extremely important for the few women that we have within our industry to pass the baton, if you will, to ensure that they continue speaking loud and clear about the experience that they have within the industry, how well they have been in terms of growth, because that is what is going to be motivating more women to be part of this great industry. I've been working in oil and gas for the last 25 years. I've started really young. Most of my experience for me to be today here was greatly advanced thanks to men and women that supported me throughout my career, that gave me the opportunity to be here today. My education was sponsored by this industry, and I keep telling people that unless they are determined, that they really want to focus in not just getting better for themselves, but for the society across, we are not going to get there. It's to continue passing the message that we can do better, we can do more. Motivating more women to go to STEM definitely is key. Showing and continue working internally as well to have better conditions for our women. Clearly, our operation space is tailored mostly for men, probably because of the size of the organization when it comes to diversity. However, the more we do to enable them to feel welcome, the better it's going to be our effort to achieve better numbers for women.
Brilliant. And we heard it in quite a few of the opening addresses about the importance of making sure that our resources don't just benefit our resources and our companies, but actually trickle down to society. And you've just given a very practical example of how that can be done. Now, moving on to you, Katja, I'd like to get an understanding of, in your journey, mentorship, the role of seeing other women in the industry already present. How has that played?
Thank you for the question. But Judith chamou-me assim a uma veia mais...
Judith called for a vein, remembering a vein. In Chevron, where we started, offshore at the time, we did not have women numbers doing offshore. And 20 years ago when I started, it was like, wow. Going to a room as such in Malongo and only seeing men, and I was looking for women. It was different from what I was seeing in university. So it's a challenge. The challenge is not only educational. So I was like, okay, there are no women here. We were about 3 or 4 in that rotation. So we went to see, and the men were like, wow. We were very young back then. So they would play. They say, open the valve. Don't you want to do men's work? Don't you want to do men's work? Now do this, and that. So this physical aggression and moral aggression to women forces us to go out because it's so aggressive, because between being in an environment where you are always oppressed, sometimes you'd go like, no, it's best to leave this. So this is about 20 years ago. 10 years ago, I was in Total in France, and I thought, wow, first world, I will find all women in the field. And I was there. I was at the center tower going for lunch. I would see men after men after men after men. I was like, so this world is just oil and gas. In fact, it's a masculine world. And therefore, so everywhere I would pass, I would mainly see the main houses of the main operators, the absence of women. It was the minimum required to be there, 10, 15, maximum 30%. So it's not an issue of education, because we're talking about the first world in this case. It's a matter. It's a bulk matter that needs to be nullified, that we need to work on. Today, we have a lot of support in Angola that many countries do not have. We are here today because we have all this support. And outside, this is not available. This force, this strength is not available. I'm talking about our area because we've been receiving a lot of support. We created Murato, we created Ukembo, and so forth. But that's not enough. We need to explore what really makes it that men and women feel committed in this challenge of oil and gas that needs to change to diversification and inclusion and have the sustainable development which is expected. Thank you very much.
Insights there. And actually, in the spirit of showing what women can do and keeping to time and being extremely professional, I'm going to ask that we change the gears and focus on the future and what needs to be done. Because in this room, we have leaders, we have captains of industries, we have public sector officials that can actually move things for us. So I want to get into practical strategies that can and should be implemented. If each one of you can perhaps in 1 or 2 sentences tell us what you think about that, starting with you, Annabella.
Since we are in Portuguese, I will continue. Katia spoke of some important aspect about inspiration. I have a 3-year-old girl. And last month, I had the opportunity to be in a pilot that is being flown by our commander, Alexandra. She's one of the only or the few female pilots. So I made an issue to go take a picture with her and my daughter, because I wanted my daughter to see that it was possible that women can occupy these positions. So in the industry, it's more or less what we need to do. We need to bring inspiration. We need to bring the role models that we have in the industry. On the other hand, I would like to focus on what I already mentioned in one way, which is we need to strengthen this agenda in another format, not only because it's cool to do, but because we need to do it. When we decide to put the local contact on the agenda of the industry, we create regulations, we go after them, And if this wasn't enforced, perhaps we wouldn't have the number of Angolans seated in leadership positions. So what needs to happen with women is exactly the same. When it comes to gender, we need to enforce this agenda in one way or another and move away from this model of nice to do and must do and include it in the agenda of the leadership in a very concrete manner.
Katrina, from your perspective?
Yes, thank you. When I think about the future, first I think about the past and where we've come from. And I think about when I joined the company 20 years ago, I was in an office with a desktop computer and no mobile phone, and I was very much stuck to that rigid space. And if I wanted to see something offshore, I had to travel, or if I had an important business meeting, I needed to travel. And so for me, to increase the participation for women, we need to look at ways of breaking down the barriers that prevent them from being able to participate all the time. And so technology is a huge one. If we think about, the COVID days and how we were able to adapt and work remotely and leverage technology, today there's folks on my facilities who can put on a real wear headset and show me really face-to-face. And so leveraging technology to allow women to be in all these places that they need to be at once, but still deliver, to solve the energy changes that we need, and then adopting policies, that support that flexibility.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Rosanna.
Well, I think that we keep on talking about the gender, and I think he's advocating for women and break the bias as well. I think this is really important, and it's something that can be effective. And in many organizations, and within Equinor, we are very proud to say that we do try as much as possible to embrace it. And that's why we have some very good facts from last year to share with all of you. So we're very proud to say that there is an equal pay of 100%. So base salary, this is very, very important. In terms of the ratio. Very important also, and we are very proud to say that more than 50% of our women do represent our corporate executive committee. And 5 out of two countries out of 5 are also run by local women on those countries, and 5 countries in Africa, they have country managers that are women. So this is really important.
Fantastic.
For us. And very, very important as well, within our office in Angola, 50% gender. So this is not only, this is in total, but also in leadership positions, so in terms of the management team. And this is something that we are really proud of, and we have to share with all of you.
As you should be. Thank you so much. And Natasha.
Well, for me, I think attitude. We need to embrace mindset change, but we also need to foster being brave, being trustworthy, and have a trustful environment in our companies. If you have a trusting environment, then you can come to your manager and say, I want to do this, I want to try, I want to move forward to this position. And you as a leader can say, okay, so overcoming that bias, can this individual, and not this man or this woman, perform this job? I think that is one key message that I would like to leave. Then the other one, it's being put in here, but it's the thought that given the right support, given the right conditions, we can find a good workplace that fits everybody, that we have individuals that are performing above and beyond because they feel that they are seen and valued within their own corporate companies.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Natasha. And with you, Judith, so your perspective on what needs to happen.
I will always give pressure on education that starts from home so that we can change our mindset and face the professional world with the strength that is expected. When we talk of strength for women, we need to double or triple this, because for women everything is harder. As we were talking, someone was saying for women everything is harder, so everything needs to start from home, from the organizations, so that we can face the working market, the work market, and be more trustworthy in the positions that we will acquire, be it in the administrative or technical areas, be it offshore or onshore, so that we have capacities and strength to face all challenges.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we wrap up our panel discussion on women's participation. Please join me in giving these wonderful, strong, and role models that are changing the game in the oil and gas sector a big round of applause. Many thanks to my panelists for your wonderful insights. Thank you.